Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids, and in today's video, well, you guys who watched my relatively recent 2x Mythical shard pulls and saw me get Gallius Bloodcrest, spoiler warning, on Fjorad, I said in that video I would be doing a video on Fjorad, so here it is, and I will tell you right at the start, I do have a couple of places where I can make use of him, but I'll tell you right now, whereas with Gallius, I disagreed with these ratings, and I actually thought that this champion is better than people think. Fjorad, similarly, absolutely shocking ratings, but unfortunately, I do have to agree with the ratings overall here. To me, whereas Gallius was actually better than I expected, he's not OP, but he's a good champion. Fjorad is actually just pretty weak and was a big disappointment. I'll walk you through it today, but again, still, I do have a couple of places where he's actually kind of useful. So we'll see. We'll see. But let's dive in. Let's go. I think one of the big things when I look at his kit, to me, he very much strikes me as the Frost version of Gizmak. We're going to be looking at that. Gizmak, of course, you know, he's coming in. He's the support in Form 1 who's putting out burns, and then he swaps into his Form 2, and he becomes this big HP damage dealer. What does Fjorad do? Well, Fjorad, I think he's really the Frost version of Gizmak. In Form 1, he's a support. He's putting out buffs. He's freezing. And then guess what? He swaps into Form 2, and then he's a HP nuker who's doing big damage. They're very similar. Fjorad, his damage is just pretty bad. Let's jump into a fight, and fun enough, actually, I don't know. Let's see it again. Well, this is actually a pretty weak team. Let's see a team that's not absolutely. I mean, a Marishka's not too bad. We could try against a Actually, this one should be pretty scary. We'll see. We might lose. I actually built him a team, and I think this is going to be pretty fun. I showed it off in stream yesterday, but now we've got Fabian booked. But this is the concept of the team. So we've got two recent fusions, and then, well, effectively Sir Nick was kind of a fusion. He was a Titan event, but we've got the Lady Noelle plus Sir Nicholas combo, and yeah, Lady Noelle is pumping out freezes, so I think it's going to synergize really well with Fjorad, who loves for enemies to be frozen. She's probably the best freeze champ. Gergo the Augur is up there as well for Arena, but she's in there. And then I think Fabian is going to be clutch to strip off their buffs and whatnot. But let's jump in. Let's just give this a go. But one of my main points is going to be Fjorad. His damage in Form 2 is just really bad. And it's interesting because it doesn't seem like it should be that bad on paper in a sense. But we'll break it down. We'll see. Okay, we might just lose everyone here. Oh, never mind. We're actually going to come in, see if we can strip their buffs. We got resisted by Galith here. And ouch, that counterattack actually took us down. Well, here we go. We could, actually, this might be a good showcase. We can freeze them all, which is good. I'm actually going to come in and then nuke a bit right there. Now, Fjorad, here we go. So he can come in. He can slap them with a freeze. And then he can... Oh, well, unfortunately, he didn't freeze her. Yeah, gosh, there's not really a point in swapping to Form 2. We won't be able to kill the Gallet. I mean, let's try it, though. Let's try it. Let's flip him over. And then he will, you know, he'll swap. That's fine. We'll go in with this AoE. The 3-hit, extra hit on enemies under freeze. But here we go. This is where I think he actually goes very well with Fabian. He also triggers his extra hit, not just if they're frozen, but also against enemies under true fear, provokes petrification. Each hit's going to decrease the target's max HP, will decrease their turn meter. It can't be resisted if they're under crowd control. So I do think he combos very well with Fabian. Let's go in with his AoE nuke. I think we did about 15,000 to Galathir right there. Needless to say, 15,000 is not a lot of it's not a lot of damage. In fact, I think we can safely say it's pretty terrible damage, to be honest. We'll put out a nice unkillable buff there to protect us. Okay, and you can actually see if you kill... we're hitting 30,000 on his A1. 15,000 on Fjorad's AoE. Now, he does come in. He does have a block revive with a 50%. It's, well, just by default, it's a 50% ignore defense. Now, if they're under freeze, it is 100% ignore defense. And it will do block revive if they're under freeze. Now, unfortunately, we don't have any freezes out there. I mean, let's just see how hard it hits against the Galathir right here. I mean, 54,000 damage. He is in lethal. uh, Needless to say, it's okay, but it's certainly not phenomenal or anything like that. There we go. We're wasting a lot of their turns. I'm going to put the unkillable back up just for safety. We've got to wait another little bit. I mean, let's see if we can kill this Armans. There we go. Good A1. Let's see if we can lock them out. Yes, we did. Perfect. So we can take them down at this point. Here we go. Oh, lovely. We can freeze them. We can freeze them. Let's just push his turn meter back with Fabian. We should be getting a win. I'll just A1 here. 40,000. Here we go. This should be a big... Oh, never mind. She outran the freeze. A3. Arbiter 105,000. There we go. So he did okay. But his damage... We'll do some more fights and we'll see. But as you saw from a couple of his hits, the damage just isn't very good. Now, I thought, hey, let's compare it to Gizmak. Because Gizmak absolutely destroys. He's a massive damage dealer. Well, when we look at their actual multipliers, check this out. These are just the core multipliers of the kit. Gizmak has a 0.23 times HP and a 0.7 times defense, and then it double hits, that'll multiply it by 2. Fjorad, in comparison, has a higher HP multiplier, 0.28, but he doesn't have the defense multiplier. Now, here's the thing. If you don't have increased defense buff, this actually works out in Fjorad's favor. Now, Gizmak has higher base HP by a bit, but I said Gizmak, if he had 95,000 HP, Fjorad 91, I said 3,500 defense. We could see, actually, Gizmak, his multiplier on the double hits, it's a 48,000, whereas Fjorad has 50,000. But wait, we just saw Fjorad's A2 do absolutely terrible damage. What is going on? What is happening? And what's happening is actually a few different things combined together, which are very awkward. So, looking at it in terms of arena. Number one, Gizmak comes in. And here's the thing. With his passive, he puts burn on everyone for 2 turns, and it cannot be resisted if he's got 100% crit rate, and he probably would build him with 100% crit rate. And then every turn he takes, he's got a 50-50 to burn them, but only for 1 turn. Now, with the Master Hex or Mastery, you can extend this. You could potentially land 3 turns on the start of the round, and potentially 2-turn burn over here. And crucially, for Arena, this will be blocked by Feral Set, but it cannot be stopped by Resistance, and obviously burns go and place on Stone Skin, and in fact do lots of extra damage to Stone Skin. So yeah, he comes in like this. So number 1, you can burn on Stone Skin. Number 2, the burns last much longer than the freezes. Number 3, it cannot be resisted. Number 4, he pumps it out passively. So if he gets locked out by, let's say, an enemy Fabian, he gets locked out, it's fine. He still put out the burns anyway, so he is still set up for form, for his other form. These are really big advantages over Fjorad's base form, and Fjorad's base form is pretty good. And then we can come in, we can buff up with an extra turn, give us a couple of chances to put more burns out, and then off that extra turn, we can swap in to Form 2, and we can nuke. Now, when he goes into Form 2, again, we saw the multipliers is actually pretty similar to Fjorad, but here's the difference. So number 1, before attacking, we put out decreased defense, and it can't be resisted if the target's under burn. So this will absolutely destroy. If enemies don't have a way to stop this decreased defense and it can't be resisted, so polymorph, definitely a thing. Obviously block debuffs. If it's up, we'll stop it. Stone Skin would stop it, of course, as well. But yeah, if he gets that decreased defense out, you're obviously going to absolutely rip through, and that's going to massively up your damage. And this even has an extra turn included if he kills an enemy. And then, on top of that, he comes in, he ignores 15% defense baseline, and then if his HP or the target's is lower than 50, so either him or his target lower than 50%, he ignores 25% defense instead. And then he just also does 20% more damage if they're not under burn. He also ignores block damage and shields when attacking enemies under burn. You put all this stuff together, and there you go. Suddenly, your Gizmak with the same multipliers is hitting way harder. He's ignoring block damage and shields. He's ignoring potentially a massive chunk of defense. He's potentially placing decreased defense that can't be resisted to up his damage even more, and then he gets an extra turn right off the bat. It's a very, very strong combo. Now jumping to Fjorad. How does Fjorad... Well, we saw it a bit in that fight right there, but how does Fjorad set it up? So number one, Fjorad's passive. When he gets debuffed, he's a chance to freeze. Now, it always happens if they're from the Galen Pact. And by the way, he does a 2-turn freeze if they're from the Galen Pact. So that's nice, I suppose, against the few enemies, Ogren, Lizards, Skinwalkers, and Orcs. Very, very good. But in general, it's much more awkward. So number one, we've got a bunch of problems. Okay, so compared to Gizmak, who's putting burns on for multiple turns, passively, irresistibly, through Stone Skin, Fjorad has literally none of that. It's likely going to be a 1-turn freeze. It needs accuracy to actually land it. It can be resisted. You can't freeze enemies through Stone Skin. And yeah, again, he could be locked out, so he can fail to be able to use this move if he gets locked out. And then you don't have a freeze, and you've got, again, no way to enable his freeze stuff in Form 2. But it's, yeah, it's just a really big problem, right? It's really hard to actually keep enemies frozen for any length of time to actually get around to this. Like, in theory, he's supposed to come in, AoE nuke, push their turn meter back, soften them up, and then hit them on the next turn and start blocking revive. But it's just really hard to actually, yeah, keep them frozen. It's just incredibly difficult. It's really, really tough. Now, on top of that, we've got another problem, right? Another problem to make this worse. Whereas Gizmak is getting decreased defense, ignore defense as well. Fjorad, he doesn't get any of that. He has no ignore defense built in. He counterattacks with his A1 when he gets locked out. Pretty mid, honestly. Very niche. I mean, compared to Gizmak, I just do 20% more damage. If they've got no burn, if they've got burn, you know, great, I'll start double hitting and stuff. Gizmak's is way stronger, and Gizmak with ignore defense, this is much more niche. We've got no ignore defense, we have no decreased defense, and on top of that, freeze actually reduces the damage enemies take. They only take 75% damage. So, same multiplier, Gizmak, tons of damage bonuses to make this number way bigger. Fjorad, by the nature of freeze, this number actually gets weaker. Plus, it's harder to get the freeze out. Plus, it's harder to keep them frozen. And it ends up being very, very, very awkward. And it's just, let's be honest, it's just a pretty bad passive. Yeah, he's kind of awkward. Like, what do you do? Here's the thing. You come into a fight. What do you do if they're under Stone Skin when he takes his turn? You can't freeze them. So you just have to do his A2. And it's not a bad move. This move's actually pretty good. Block debuffs increase speed and decrease ally skill cooldowns. But it's not really what you want to be doing in Arena. It's kind of weak. I do think he fits well with this team. Again, we'll show you this team. The concept of this team, we do have him set up to do that in this team. Because Noelle's going to be pumping out freezes. She's also going to be pumping out basically unkillables from Sir Nick. So the idea here, and we've got Fabian who's going to be locking people out and CCing them. So the idea here is that will have Fjorad basically give us block debuffs for this team and increase speed, which I think is very nice. Increase speed we already have, but the block debuffs is good. And reducing the cooldowns for Noelle and Fabian I think is very strong. Even Sir Nick is decent. And yeah, then we'll freeze on his next turn. Noelle can be freezing as well, and we'll just sort of cycle through and then hopefully nuke them. Let's see how this sort of works on auto. Because you just can't really set up his you can't really set him up to open with his freeze, at least on defense, because what if it just doesn't work? Okay, we locked them out, but we didn't remove the buff right there. That's a little unfortunate. But again, here what I think is quite useful, we can reduce the cooldowns of those moves, which I think is pretty nice. And then Noelle will set up a freeze. If they take a turn in the meantime, it's fine. Fabian, there we go. Fjorad goes in. He's pushed them back. You can see the damage just not great. Here he comes in, AoE, and yeah, it's killing this weak team. We were hitting for like what 20 to 50,000 maybe. It's killing them, but it's not spectacular. So I think this is an interesting team. I think here's the thing. I think he does fit really well into this team. He synergizes phenomenally well. It's actually okay. But yeah, it's just the damage is a bit lacky. Again, here we could have opened with his A3 into his second form AoE nuke as well, and that would have been decent. But here we go. They're frozen. Lady Noelle also decreases their speed while they're frozen, which is a nice little combo. Bam, there we go. We actually had one good hit in there, and he's going to come in. Ice Quake. 41k per hit. He would have hit her for 80,000. Yeah, it's not bad. Fabian is cycling back to his cooldowns, which is actually, again, pretty good. And yeah, we'll see. There you go. Sir Nick actually finishes them off. Sir Nick, in this sense, actually doing more damage. Let's see. This is actually a tougher team. And this should illustrate, I think, a bit of a problem. If we get locked out, he's really useless. Whereas Gizmac is like, well, I still burned you with my passive, and you've taken a bunch of damage from burns. Yeah, not so over here. Let's see what's going to happen. Okay. Oh, she actually got locked out as well, so this is super duper bad. He's pretty high resistance, so he's obviously a very high accuracy warlord. Oh, God, she got absolutely smacked by Calamitous. Actually kind of impressive. She's resisting the Armans, but not him, and Calamitous should finish her off. I think Calamitous is actually pretty cool in this team, by the way. He does bring, he brings his own increased attack buff. It's actually kind of nifty. Calamitous fitting in as a pretty good damage dealer. Ends up being a much better mythical. Let's see here. Okay, this is a team with a bunch of +4s. Let's see it. The Unkillable from Sir Nicholas. Definitely not good against Rotus. But let's find out. Here we go. Will we strip their stuff? We stripped a bit of it. We did strip a bit of it. Maybe I should have opened with her A3 just because this Rotus is going to mess us up a good bit. But here we go. We can reduce the cooldowns. Starting to get us ready. Luckily, he didn't go with his Unkillable, so that's good. His move's not going to work. We get the AoE freeze. We're going to swap over. Let's see. How hard are we going to hit against these guys? Yikes, man. Like, bro, I know they've got damage reduction from the Python and from the Duchess, but it's highly unlikely that Volcanen is in any way, shape, or form a tanky champion. Now, there we go. That's a big hit right there. That's a big hit on his A3. When that works, it works. But when it doesn't, it doesn't. Nice Petrify. Beautiful. We've got the freeze. But again, it's just impossible actually keep the freeze on. I guess what actually worked there is because Python's a lizard, he was actually able to freeze him for longer. But here we go, like switching back into this form is kind of nice, right? I will say this is another advantage for Gizmac, which I think is fairly substantial. He should come in here with the AoE freeze, but he's even getting resisted, which is shocking. There's his A1 freeze from her. I can't believe he's actually getting. I mean, it's a +4 Rotus, but nonetheless, that still feels. I have to say, it does feel pretty bad. He should have a 4. Let's see, how hard will he hit against the? He's got a 4 hitter. Oh, never mind. He's doing his great captain move instead, which is not the worst thing, actually. We'll just leave it on auto, actually, for this whole fight. Sir Nick also has a freeze on his A1. Rotus even resisting him. That's a bit crazy. Let's see here. Actually, this is a perfect example. We go in. This should be big damage. Yeah. When that hits, that A3, big damage if they're frozen. And maybe we should even prioritize that number 1. In fact, I think I should. I think we need to change it right now. I think we need to change it. This Rotus could easily destroy us, unfortunately. There's the A2 from Fabian. Right, not from Fabian, from him. There's the A1. He's going to ignore defense, and I think just rip through the team, unless she can freeze him. Good. Again, her freeze being irresistible is so nice. His freezes as well. We've got extra turn on Rotus. He's got 3 stacks of Word of the Fallen. We're in for a bad time. Okay, we're swapping back. We're going to reduce our cooldowns, which is decent. Got a bit of a shield. Again, cycling back to her freeze is nice. We have the extra attack. He's going to go in with his A1 now. This is potentially a 4-hitter. Massive damage. Trying to push his turn meter back again. He's a resisty boy. Tons of oof. Ouch, that hurts. But he can only kill one of them. I don't know, can we kill this +4? Do we have the damage? Sir Nick, unblockable freeze on his A1. Also pretty solid. Fabian is like, we can't really blame Fjorad about this. We've got over 500 accuracy on Fabian. And Fabian is failing to lock down this Rotus. It's not really his fault then. Sir Nick losing a lot of damage. Oh, the extra turn. It's so close. Rotus didn't get an extra turn, but he's refilled his buff bar. We're swapping over. And there you go. We finally take him down. We do the job. There, actually, you can see Fjorad did outdamage Sir Nick. And yeah, that's sort of the vibe of that. So looking at him, oops, I didn't mean to refresh, but we did. Looking at him in Arena, I feel like he's really awkward to use. He's not bad, and I do think that sort of team is probably his best best case scenario, but he's just really awkward. It's very like this passive is very inconsistent. This move is good. Like he's okay in form 1. Form 2, his A1, his A2 are really underwhelming. His A3 absolutely claps if they're frozen, but it's really hard to line that up. Really, really hard to line it up. I actually think in this team, we do prioritize that. I think we switch up the AI and we'll do one more. Let's find another difficult fight. Here we go. We might just die. We'll find out. So I actually think, looking at this, I've only just got Fabian, so I've not experimented much with this particular team. But I think considering Fabian, it's so difficult, right? Fabian can enable this A2. I think we actually prioritize Disciple of Torment as priority 1. And then I'm going to probably prioritize switching back. I don't think his A2 is just really worth using. And then I'll do his A2. And like that. And we'll do number 2 on his wolf. And like so. I think that's the way we set him up. And the others are just fine like this. By the way, this is what we do at Noelle. She's pretty high resist. So she will preferably put up unkillable. And then she'll be preferably spamming free. So we'll see. If we're fast enough, she can get unkillable up and prevent the bombs from killing us. And we've got protection. Oh, we're actually outspeeding them. Okay, good. We've got fear on him. He's metamorphed, unfortunately, but we might petrify. No, weak hit. Okay. Oh, he missed his turn thanks to fear. We're saved. We are saved. Thank God for that. Okay. Got 1 petrify out. Reducing our cooldowns here. Again, I think it's really good. Fabian actually right back into his moves because he's getting like extra turns. Actually works really well. There we go. They're frozen. Unfortunately, now they've got a bunch of buffs spread around, which sucks, but he should block revive somebody. Bam. There we go. In with the block revive. Now we don't have Fabian left anymore, so no true fears. This guy's going to try bomb us. No, he's not. Let's see. He's just A2. 33,000 against Arbiter. Yeah. This is going to hurt. The unkillable protects, though. Freeze them again. Beautiful. Is A1. Not doing much. Push his turn meter back. Fear him is good. Unkillable back on should protect us from bombs. Unkillable and healing back on. We're also getting the damage boost on everyone. Disciple of Torment. This is definitely the way to do it. Disciple of Torment, actually, first priority. And this is the team. This is, I think, his best team. I'll put this up on my tag defense. We'll see. And then reducing the cooldowns because, honestly, Fabian and Noelle are so strong. Reducing their cooldowns a bit, giving them block debuffs is good. Okay. One more strong team. Give it a go. And imagine we're not a speed team here, so the lockout should hurt us pretty badly. Okay, she resisted, which is good, but nobody else did. Now, she'll give us unkillable, so this is actually quite funny. Siegfried's going to struggle. And Sir Nick got a hit in. Decreased turn meter a bit. Some nice counterattacks there, but she's throwing the fear back. Oh, the freeze is getting thrown back by her. That's unfortunate. He's dead. Okay, we increased our cooldown. Fabian. Oh my god. Is Fabian just going to hard carry this fight for us? Got fears on half of them. Transfer the debuffs. Back in. Will Noelle have a revive? Oh, look at that. And the fears. Oh my god. Fabian's just god tier, bro. Fabian. And then Noelle. Noelle plus Fabian, man. Lock him out again. More petrifies. More fears. Sir Nick doing a bit of damage. Oof, that hurt. Throwing that back. That hurt. Fabian pushing them back again. Okay, here we go. He's gone in. That move smacks, man. That move does smack. With or without freeze. It really smacks with freeze, and it's good without. Okay. Lock him out. Okay, we've got fear and petrify and freeze, so we've got it all. I mean, my god, he still hit her for 12,000 on the A2, though. What is that? He might miss his move because of fear. Oh, nice. Sir Nick actually landed a freeze. Fjorad can't do anything here, but that's okay. Like, oh, we weak hit. But he removed the buff anyway. Okay. Cool. Of course, he removes his... I forgot the lockout is based off affinity, but the buff reduction isn't, which is super strong. Oh, man. Yeah. Like, I don't know. Is Fjorad really doing anything here versus another damage deal? Would we just kill it faster? Probably. But it does synergize. I'll show you the other area I've used him. That's him in arena, though. I mean, he actually got out damaged in that fight by Fabian. He's just, I feel like where else is his form 2 really good? It's going to be good for waves, for faction wars, but it feels like an arena form, like Gizmak. Gizmak is obviously fantastic for spiders and stuff. But yeah. Now, the other area I have found him to be useful is Fire Knight Hard, where I've got him in this team. Now, the problem I ran into, I'll run this team through. We've got double ally attack with Marius, Newt, and now Fjorad. What Fjorad does here, he brings a bunch of freezes, right? His A1, if the enemy isn't frozen, and of course the Fire Knight removes freeze instantly, so won't be frozen. He has a 4-hitter A1, a 4-hitter against Fire Knight, which is super good for taking down the shields. Now, what I wanted to do in theory was, this would be great. We could swap to his form. We could freeze them, swap to form 2, then nuke the waves. But I actually found that he doesn't get back to form 1 on time. This is the awkward thing. We need him in form 1 at the start of the boss wave. So it's impossible to make him use form 2 here because we need his 4-hitter. We need it. We need the 4-hitter against the boss because we got all these ally attacks. But he's pretty great here, right? He's got so many attacks. He can be freezing. And then he brings a guaranteed freeze with decreased speed right there. And then he reduces everyone's cooldowns. Is actually great, right? Because Marius opens with the nuke, his big nuke. And then we've reduced the cooldown. And he reduces the cooldown of the ally attack. So he actually makes it very easy to run this fight. I used to have another Newt in this spot. But Fjorad actually is better. Here he goes. Look, you can see his 4-hitter. It's a little bit of damage. Each hit, I think, is a 50% chance to freeze, which can push the Fire Knight's turn meter back. And, bam. It's a really... that's actually my fastest run, actually. We've done it once before with one fewer turn, actually. But he's very solid, actually, here. Again, he doesn't actually do any damage. Mikage actually beat him. But he is pumping out lots of freezes. He does have freeze and decreased speed and a 4-hitter A1 for the boss. And he is reducing everybody's cooldowns. It's actually a good kit for this. He's actually good for Fire Knight. With a weaker team, or if they add stage 20 or stage 25 of this dungeon, I could see him being even better. Where we'd actually maybe have time to use his alternate form on the waves or whatever. But it's awkward. See, he really, really needs to be in form 1 when he gets... I guess you could have him the fastest champ on the team, but then his form 2 is going to be useless. It won't do any damage. You won't have any damage build. I don't know. But there he is. I found him actually quite good here. This is now a super consistent, 115 to 130. Takes about that for the run. It sort of depends on Slayer set on Marius, how that procs. How does he need an extra A1 for a wave or not? But yeah, again, I've built Fjorad for damage, but he just doesn't do any. This is the build. I have him in 4 pinpoint, 4 lethal. It's tough because if he gets frozen on this move, he's rough. But he doesn't put out any. It's awkward. He can freeze on his A1. He can freeze on this. He can freeze on his passive. So I've given him pinpoint because he really falls apart if he doesn't freeze. I do think you could do him 4-piece stone skin, 4-piece lethal. I think would be fine as well. I think that's fine. And yeah, if he gets polymorphed on his A3, you're just screwed. But that's life, I suppose. If you're going to open with his A2, like I am now in my team, I think it's okay. I've given him Nature's Wrath to up his damage because I feel like, my God, does he need more damage? I think you could also give him Polymorph. Would be pretty decent. You have to build him with accuracy. So there you are. Polymorph might be pretty good. You could, in theory, you could potentially give him Fearsome Presence with Polymorph, and it would make his passive better. It makes his A1 better. You'd lose out Helm Smasher, but, in Form 2, his A2 just simply doesn't do any damage anyway. When his A3, if they're frozen, already ignores 100% defense. So, I don't know. I'm conflicted about this champion. I'm not sure the best way to build him. This is his Form 1. This is our Form 1 stats, 90,000 HP, 3,500. He's 3-star Blessing. I think he unfortunately needs sort of every star. 4-star gives him more crit damage, which he desperately needs. 5-star gives him accuracy, which he desperately needs. He's very Blessing hungry, but he's got decent speed, etc. I think I would prefer him in the stone skin, but I didn't have good stone skin left for him. Yeah, that and like his gear's fully ascended. He's in good gear, honestly. Like he's got crit damage. This is attack percent, but it's not too bad. HP with accuracy, speed with HP. You know, speed. He's in pretty decent gear. It's not the best in the world, but it's good. I've got a bad ring. I don't have a good ring. It's an attack ring. Get more damage there, but crit damage neck. Big HP banner again. We've got a good bit of attack percent. He does actually scale off attack percent in Form 1, but as you saw, he doesn't do any real damage anyway. So the attack is kind of useless. And yeah, that's Fjorad. I think he's definitely a disappointment. Compare him to Gizmak, and I think it's pretty brutal. What does this champ need? I think he goes very well with Fabian. There is that. I think he does go very well with Empress as well. Empress, I'll be pulling him, I think, next week if I'm lucky. Empress can remove Stone Skin and change it into True Fear, which is a big win for Fjorad, honestly. And he can put out True Fears on his A2 as well. Again, it's a pretty big win for Fjorad. So they could, again, combo pretty well together. I think Fjorad combos well at Fabian. I think he combos very well with Lady Noelle. Putting them in a team with Sir Nicholas, again, is actually pretty decent. You know, it works fairly well. So there is stuff to be said for that. But I don't know. I feel like this champ needs something. Like, if this was a 2-turn freeze, would that just be OP? Maybe. That might be just OP. I feel like they need to do something for his A2 over here, and I feel like his passive is just really poor. I think that he needs something else, right? Some sort of Gizmak type thing. Considering that his damage is reduced by them being frozen, yeah, I feel like he needs something more. Oh, by the way, I do have him with the Malefic Talon, just sort of a filler. I have him with these Mastery. I think fairly standard. Actually, not fairly standard. You do obviously want Opportunist. 12% more damage to enemies under freeze, petrification, etc. And yeah, giving him more duration on his buffs, I think is good. Because he's putting out nice buffs in Form 1. Increased speed, block debuffs especially is good. Helm Smasher, I don't know. Like, again, Helm Smasher, in theory, makes his A3 hit a lot harder if they're not frozen. If they are frozen, it's useless. He's a difficult champ to build, honestly. I don't know. Guys, what do you think? I feel like he definitely needs a buff. I feel something else in his kit to really make him pop. I think it's just very awkward to enable his freeze. And then his Form 3 is really hard carried by the A3. Is good. The rest of his kit sucks. Form 1 is pretty good. But, you know, maybe this Galen pack stuff is just a bit too punishing. It's a bit too niche, a bit too limited. I don't know. Let me know. What did you think about Fjorad, having seen him? Like I said, when I got him, I've been pretty disappointed. He did fine in this team over here, but I normally, by the way, just to put it in context, instead of this team, I normally do this team, but with a Marius. And Mike, with a Marius, it's just a teeny little bit better, to be honest. You know, it's just, it performs just a little, just a scooch better with Marius, needless to say. Like, I don't know, like, we put in the Marius version just for the laugh. It's a little bit better, and this is probably one of the hardest teams here on the page. But yeah, that's Fjorad. I think he's not useless, like I said, but he's disappointing. He's got some interesting combos with some interesting champions, but I have been very much, unfortunately, whelmed. So with Marius brings increased defense for the whole team. Marius brings buff stripping for the whole team. We don't have block debuffs, which is a downside. The block debuffs is really nice, and the cooldown reduction, but Marius obviously is arguably the best arena champ in the game, so it's not entirely a fair comparison, but then again, is it unfair? I don't know. But Marius brings, as you can see, substantially more and easier damage. So yeah, I think that's important context for the Fjorad as well. How hard we're trying to make him work to do bad damage. There you go, guys. That's my luck. Condolences if you pulled him. I think he is fairly likely to be buffed. Honestly, I think he's fairly likely to be buffed, and I do think at least his Form 1 is going to be very good for Faction Wars. Like, he'll be great for Faction Wars. And he will be really good if they put in more levels of Fire Knight Hard. And then I think his Form 2 is really whelming, but I think it's it's got a good chance to be buffed, to be honest. And hey, I mean, if you get a big blessing for him, he'll be okay. There we go. Thanks for watching. See y'all next time. Goodbye.